Hey, Algebra 2, this is Mr. Shack coming to you with your Module 12 test review video. It's a little bit of a longer one. There's a couple that we're just going to skip over, but I'm going to try to get through most of these. But again, if I'm going to get through most of these, that means I'm going to be going very fast. So please remember that you're not just copying these down. You're not just writing down everything I'm writing down just to get it done. That does not benefit you in any way. So please make sure you're taking your time, understanding these, trying these on your own, then maybe hitting that play button when you're stuck to get yourself unstuck. Then pause right again, finish it if you can, then play to make sure that you did it right, and then move on. Use the video in a way that's going to be helpful to you. Okay. So, starting off with the first one, if we're going to simplify this, we need to factor both the top and the bottom, okay? First thing you should notice, the top here has an x in every single one of them, so I'm going to pull an x out, and that top is going to become, pull an x out of x to the third is x squared. Pull an x out of 8x squared, well, that's just 8x. Okay, pulling an x out of everything. Okay, from here, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to simplify this even more because now this part can be factored. So I'm thinking of two numbers that multiply to 7 and add to -8. Okay, and when they multiply to a positive and add to a negative, you should know it's going to be two negatives because negative times a negative is a positive. And if it's going to add to a negative, well, there's got to be negatives. So that's going to end up being, and again, pause and think about these. You need to think about factoring because I'm not going to be there to factor these for you. You need to be thinking about factoring these on your own. Make sure you're pausing, not just copying this down. Very extra important for this video, although it's very important for all of them. So this is going to turn into x minus 7, x minus, oops, supposed to be x minus 1 because -7 times -1 is that positive 7, okay, and -7 plus -1 is -8, okay, and then we still have that x out front. Don't forget about that. Bottom, got two numbers that multiply to -2 and add to 1. Okay, well, if we're talking multiplying to -2, there's only two numbers that multiply to -2. It's 2 and 1. Okay, we just got to figure out which one's got to be negative. And if it's going to add to a positive, that means it should be a +2 and a -1. Again, make sure you are trying to factor these on your own, not just letting me factor these for you. That is not the practice you need. That is not going to be preparing you for the test if you're just watching me do this for you. Okay, now here we're just seeing what can we cross off. And we have an x minus 1 on both the top and the bottom, so our answer becomes this. Okay, could rewrite it. I'm leaving it like this. And then you just say excluded values. Well, x cannot equal +1 because that's the whole, and also we can't have a 0 denominator. So what makes x plus 2 equal 0? That's a -2. -2 plus 2 is 0. So x cannot be 1 or -2. Okay, moving on. Okay, and again, I'm going to say it again right now. I can't take the time to say it every problem, but you need to be doing these on your own. Make sure you're trying these on your own. You're starting when it's subtraction or addition. You need to start by finding that least common denominator. Try these on your own and pause and play as you need to. Okay, so now here, our least common denominator, well, if we have a 2 times x minus 1 here, this just needs to be multiplied by 2, and it's also at 2x minus 1. So that's our least common denominator. Okay, so then I have to go ahead, and to make this 2x minus 1, I multiply it by 2. And if I'm multiplying the bottom by 2, I got to multiply the top by 2. Okay, so what this turns into is 2 times x plus 2 over 2x minus 1. And that's the common denominator, remember, so then it's really just -3 also on top. So we can write it all over that now. It's then subtracting the 3. Okay, now I want to distribute here. So this is going to turn into 2x plus 4, because 2 times x, 2 times 2 is 4, and then minus 3 over 2x minus 1. Well, what is 4 minus 3? That's just 1. So 2x plus 1 over 2 times x minus 1. That should be your final answer there. Okay, moving on. Again, we're adding, so whenever you see that adding or subtracting, you know you need a least common denominator. So you should be going to that. My screen looks dark. I don't know if my brightness is down or something. Hopefully you can see all right. Least common denominator. Again, so when you have something like this, you can just say, oh, well, my least common denominator is my denominators multiplied by each other. So it's x plus 3 times x plus 1. And what that means is that we have to multiply this first one times x plus 1 on what you multiply on the top, or what you multiply on the bottom, you got to multiply on the top, okay? And then this one needs to be multiplied by the x plus 3. X plus 3, okay? So from there, our denominator becomes this, like we said, x plus 3 times x plus 1. And then we have 5 times x plus 1. I'm going to do the distributing all in one step here. So we're distributing here. So it's going to be 5x plus 5. And then plus, now we got 3. We're distributing this 3x plus 9. And now we just need to combine our like terms here. So this is going to become 5x and 3x. Well, that's 8x. 5 plus 9, well, that's 14. So that's what we're getting here. And again, it's over our common denominator of x plus 3 times x plus 1. Okay. I'm realizing that I need to probably pick up the pace if I want to have any chance of finishing this. Okay, number 4. Again, be pausing. I'm going to be going way too fast. Number 4, we got trying to figure out which of these are solutions, okay? Well, the nice thing about this is you can just plug each of these in for x and see if it's true. If I plug in a negative 4, 4 plus negative 4, that's a 0 on the top. You just got to make sure it's not a 0 on the bottom, because then it would be excluded. But if you plug in a 0 on the bottom, nope, you're not going to get a 0 on the bottom, which is good. And same thing here, you would not get a 0 on the bottom here, so you're good. And then just got to make sure 12 plus 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. 12 plus a negative 12, yeah, that is 0 also. So you get 0 equals 0, so that makes it a solution. So you're really just plugging each of these in to see if it is true or not. Okay, if you get like a 7 equals 5, well, 7 does not equal 5, so you would say not solution. Okay, so do the next two using that plug and see type of method. You're just plugging these values in for x and seeing if you're left with a true statement. Again, if you're left with like 8 equals 8, yeah, that's a true statement. It's a solution. If you're left with something like 2 equals 4, well, 2 does not equal 4, so no, that's not a solution. That's what you're doing for these. Pause right now. Do those yourself. I will give you the answers in just a second. Okay, hopefully you did those. They all are solutions, actually, in this case. But you got to know how to do that, okay? There's a problem just like it. Got to know how to do it. You're just plugging them in to seeing if it leaves you with the true statement. Plug those values in for x. Okay, number 5. Here is your problem. Well, if we're talking about volume, volume equals length times width times height. Okay, I'm coming off of a little bit of a illness or whatever you want to call it. So I'm already like winded here and trying like not to cough. So I got to start trying to talk a little bit less. So I'm not going to read the whole problem. But once you get this, we're told the volume is 160. Okay, so that's the V. The width is 4x plus 6. Okay, and then the height of the rectangular prism is 3 times its width, and we don't know the length. So the length can just stay as L. We don't know it. Width, like we said, is 4x plus 6. And then the height of the rectangular prism is 3 times its width. Well, if this is its width, that means the height is 3 times the 4x plus 6. Okay, so then from here, you just need to go ahead and simplify this some more. So I'll just bring this down for now because we need to distribute this 3. That'll give you 12x plus 18. Again, this still equals 160. And there's a few ways of doing this actually from here. But now you could even, so there is more than one right way of getting your final answer here, whether you do factored form or not. Here, if you wanted to FOIL this out, you could. Really, what it's going to end up being is you're trying to get L alone. So even from here, you could go ahead, divide both sides, because it just says give an expression. It doesn't tell you what type of specific expression. You're trying to get L alone. To do that, you need to divide by these things here. That will get L alone. And what you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So you got to divide this side by 4x plus 6 and 12x plus 18. And that is what you get for L. L is now alone. Okay, you could do it where you FOILed it out and then wrote 160 divided by that, because you're going to have to divide by that to get L alone. Okay, a few different ways of doing it. Just got to know what type of thinking you need to use there. Moving on. Okay, solve the equation. Well, if we're solving an equation and it's an addition equation, well, we need a common denominator, that means. And once we have a common denominator, we can kind of just forget about them. Okay, so we have 3x, this is x, this is 3. Well, that's nice. Our least common denominator then is going to be 3x. Okay, so we're not going to have to multiply this guy by anything. To get a 3x here, we have to multiply by x. So what we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. To get 3x here, we got to multiply by 3. So what we do to the bottom, we got to do to the top. Okay, now from there, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this in. So we get 3x minus 6, because 3 times negative 2 is that 6. Okay, and then we have plus, again, I'm distributing this x now. We have x squared plus 4x, and that's that distributed. And then that just equals the 21x minus 55. Okay, they would all be over 3x now, so I can just drop that denominator of 3x, and we can just go ahead start solving this using algebra. So when we have that x squared, we want to get everything on one side here. And I guess before that, I'm going to combine my like terms. So we're going to have an x squared, 3x and 4x makes 7x, and then minus 6. Okay, that equals 21x minus 55. So I got to bring these to the other side. We got to get it set equal to 0. That's how we know, that's when we can solve quadratics like this. So we're getting everything to one side. We then get x squared minus 14x. Negative 6 plus 55 is 49. And that is now set equal to 0 because these things cancel like we wanted them to. Okay, so now to solve this, you can solve this by factoring and just saying, okay, well, how do we factor this? This is factorable. This actually turns into, okay, two numbers that multiply to 49 and add to negative 14. Well, again, if they multiply to a positive, add to a negative, we know it's got to be two negatives, and negative times a negative is a positive. And 7 times 7 is 49. 7 plus 7 is 14. And if it's a negative 14, yep, negative 7 plus a negative 7 is negative 14. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. So we get this. Again, that's set equal to 0. So you're just thinking, well, what x value makes this equal 0? Either of these equals 0. In this case, it's both. Well, 7 minus 7 is 0. So that's your one solution. X equals 7. It's like a double root there. So your answer is x equals 7 there. Okay, and yeah, that's good for that one. Now, going on to the next one. Again, when you're dealing with something like this, you have to factor both the top and the bottom. Okay, so the top here, it's going to actually be a factor by grouping because there's 4 terms. So you're kind of splitting this down and seeing, okay, what can I take out of x cubed minus 5x squared? We can only take out an x squared there. You're left with x minus 5. Okay, then you go to the, oh shoot, now I can't even see. That's a plus 9x minus 45. So I'm going to take out, I can take out a 9 of each of those. So I'm going to take out a 9. They're both divisible by 9. Take 9 out of 9x. You're just left with x. Take 9 out of negative 45. Negative 45 divided by 9 is that 5. Okay. So now, good. We've factored by grouping on the top. So what this is going to look like for my numerator is when you factor by grouping, it's like you're left with x squared plus 9, x minus 5. Okay. Well, from there, okay, you're thinking, all right, well, how can we now factor the bottom? And we have, it's got to multiply to negative 20 and add to negative 1. Think about what that's going to be. Pause if you haven't. You should be doing this on your own. You got to know how to factor. You need to be able to factor for this entire test. Practice that now. Hit play when you're ready to see the answer, to check your answer. But it should be negative 5 times positive 4. Okay, so this is what you should get for your factored bottom. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 5 plus 4, negative 1. Okay, so then you see these match up, those cancel, and you are left with an expression of x squared plus 9 on top and just x plus 4 on the bottom. Okay, now talking about excluded values, okay, is negative 5 an excluded value? No, negative 5 does not make our whole equal 0, and it does not make our denominator equal 0, so it's not an excluded value. That's the type of thinking you're doing for each of these. Pause, do these on your own if you haven't yet. Don't just watch me give you the answer. Is x equal negative 4 a excluded solution? What I'm looking for is I go ahead and I see, okay, is that going to make any of my denominator equal 0? Negative 4 plus 4, that's 0. That is my denominator, so yes, it is an excluded value. Is a positive 4 an excluded value? No, that doesn't make my denominator or my whole equal 0, not an excluded value. X equals 5. That is my whole because 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 5 is 0. That's my whole. So yes, that is an excluded value there. Going down. Okay, now we have a division problem. Main thing with division is you need to remember to keep, change, flip. Okay, so we keep this first one. I'm going to start factoring the first one right away, actually. So, well, what you can really do is, if you want, you can cross this off, change it to multiplication, and we're flipping it. Maybe don't cross it off as dark as I did, because now I can hardly see what I wrote. But it's good. I'm just flipping it. Okay. I could hardly see what it was since I crossed it off so dark. But that is what it is. So I changed the sign to multiplication, and I flipped it. And now I just got to start the factoring process. On top here, factoring. Again, pause right now. Do this on your own. Factor both the top and the bottom. You're going to have to factor by grouping on the bottom here. You should see whenever it's 4 terms, it's factor by grouping. Take the time right now. Do that on your own. Pause. Play when you're ready to see the answers. I'm going to go through this one really fast. So do this on your own. You're just going to check your answer with me. Okay, on the top, factoring this, first, x squared minus 2x minus 15 turns into x minus 5, x plus 3. Okay, I'm going to keep going straight across. On top, we got 6x plus 12. Well, we can just pull out a 6, and that's going to then be an x plus 2. Okay, so that's our top. Then going to the bottom, we got our factor by grouping. I can pull out an x squared of each of those, and we get x minus 5 when we pull out an x squared of both of these two. Okay, and then we got to pull out a negative 4 for the negative 4x plus 20. That will give you an x minus 5 also now. So that's what we wanted, but also then we have this x plus 3. Can't forget about it on the bottom. Okay, so we got to simplify this more. I'm going to throw this 6 out to the front in my numerator. So we have 6. Then we have x minus 5, x plus 3, x plus 2 on the top. Oof, I'm running out of room. Okay, and then on the bottom, when we factored by grouping, that means we have an x squared minus 4. Our other pair is the x minus 5. And then we got the x plus 3. Okay, well, from there, we can already see that we're crossing these ones off because we got them on both the top and the bottom. But notice this x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. Okay, square root of 4 is 2, so that means that turns into an x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay, and what was left on the top is just the 6 and the x plus 2. Okay, but again, we see this here now matching up. X plus 2's match up, so we're really left with just the 6 on the top and the x minus 2 on the bottom. That is your final answer. Okay, I know I'm going fast, but you should be doing this on your own, checking with me to see if you're thinking the right way, if you're doing these the right way. Okay, next one, multiplying. We don't have to keep change flip. You're just keeping because it's multiplication. We just need to factor the top and factor the bottom. Okay, again, pause right now. Do this on your own. I'm going to go through it fast then. Thinking of two numbers that multiply to negative 63 and add to negative 2. Should be x minus 9, x plus 7. Again, you're doing this on your own. You should be at least. Otherwise, you're just not preparing yourself for your test, and that is shame on you. Your loss. Okay, do not just watch me give you the answers. Again, now you should be thinking about two numbers that multiply to negative 26, add to 11. Do this on your own. Pause right now, then hit play to see the answer. Multiply to negative 6, add to 11. It's an x plus 13 and an x minus 2. Okay, going to the bottom. Thinking about two numbers that multiply to 18, add to negative 11. Okay, so you should be thinking, all right, if they multiply to 18, that's 9 and 2. Oh, yep, 9 and 2 add to 11. It's a negative 11, though, multiplying to a positive, so it's got to be a negative 9 and a negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. Now here you're just seeing what's the biggest thing I can pull out of both 8 and 56. You can pull out an 8. You're left with x. 56 divided by 8 is 7. Okay, now you just start going crazy, crossing off whatever you can. Oh, I have an x minus 9, both the top and the bottom. Cross them both off. I have an x minus 2 in both the top and the bottom. Cross them both off. I have an x plus 7 in both the top and the bottom. Cross them both off. All I'm left with is x plus 13 on the top and an 8 on the bottom. That's your answer. Moving on. Okay, we're going to skip both 10 and 12. They would be good practice ones for you. I'm just not going to do them on the video. Okay, number 11. Here we go. We have a subtraction problem. And when we have subtraction or addition, that means we need to find that common denominator. Okay, so that's where you're starting. What's that common denominator? And in this case, it's going to be just these two denominators multiplied by each other. So 5 times the x plus 1, x minus 2. Okay, so in order to do that, that means I had to multiply this side by 5. What I do to the top, I got to do to the bottom. Or what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. And then this needs to be multiplied by the x plus 1, x minus 2. X plus 1, x minus 2. Okay, so when I do that, then my top here will become 2 times x plus 1, x minus 2. Okay, and then I get 3 times 5 is 15. Remember, it's minus, so it's like minus 15. Okay, and then again, that is over my common denominator of 5 x plus 1, x minus 2. Okay, from there, I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I'm going to distribute this 2. So this is going to turn into, I'm going to go over here so I don't run out of room. I'm going to go over here and we're going to get 2x plus 2 now times x minus 2 minus 15 on the top. I'm going to keep working with this top, not writing my bottom for the sake of space, and my bottom's not going to change. Okay, and now I just need to FOIL this out. Okay, so, or you can put it on the box, 2x plus 2 times x minus 2. If you don't like FOIL, you can do that box method that I show you where you write 1 on the top, 1 on the side, multiply it out, and what you're going to get is 2x squared minus 2x minus 4. You still have to tack on the minus 15. So really what this turns into is 2x squared minus 2x. Negative 4 minus 15 is negative 19. And again, that is over your common denominator of 5 times x plus 1 times x minus 2. That's your answer there. Okay, so really once you get here, you're almost done. Then it's just simplifying by FOILing it out. You would get most points just by getting it there. Least common denominator is the very important part here. So you know what to multiply each fraction by, both the top and the bottom. Okay, skipping 12 for now. Going down here, you need to know how to set something like this up. Okay, so if it takes Bill 9x squared minus 1 hours to build 5 models, we can put models on top and you put your time on the bottom. Okay, so that means, again, 5 models. So 5 models and 9x squared minus 1 hours. Okay, and it's just going to follow this format. Okay, again, models on the top, 2 models now in 3x minus 1 hours is what his friend John can do. And we want to know, write an expression, how many models Bill can build. Oh, this is supposed to say, and John can build per hour if they work together. So that means you're adding them. Okay, if they're working together, you're adding their 2 times together. Okay, now from there, if we're trying to write a simplified expression as one fraction that models this situation, well, then that just means we are trying to add them. We need to find a least common denominator in order to do that. Okay, but this can be factored here. This is Bill's expression. That can be factored, so factor this out. And what that factors out to is actually 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. It's a difference of squares, okay, because 9x squared, square root of 9x squared is 3x. Okay, square root of 1 is, well, 1. So we have plus 1 and minus 1. And then we just bring down John's 2 over 3x minus 1. Now we got to think, okay, what's the least common denominator? Well, this already has the 3x minus 1. It just needs a 3x plus 1. So that least common denominator is 3x plus 1 times 3x minus 1. Okay, so if I'm going to get a 3x plus 1 over here, I need to multiply this by 3x plus 1. And what I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. So I'm multiplying the top by 3x plus 1. Also, this one already has my least common denominator, so I don't need to touch it right now. So what that's going to turn into is on the bottom, we got our least common denominator, 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. The 5 is staying, so we got 5 plus, and then 2 times 3x plus 1 is going to be, I got to distribute that 2, so it's going to be 6x. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, we're almost there. Simplify this a little bit more because the 5 and 2 can be combined, so we get 6x plus 7 on top over our least common denominator, 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1. That is our answer. Okay, this very last one on the back. Okay, it's a monster of a problem, but I'm going to try to simplify it for you. And really, once we write this equation, it's going to be go to the graphing calculator. Okay, so we got a party planner. They have 2 balloons for filling. Okay, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read it all. I know you guys can read. Okay, so what you're trying to think, write an equation that can be used to correctly solve for x. Okay, so we're now this time, I always say put time on the bottom. So we got minutes on the bottom. We got balloons on the top. I don't know if I spelled that right. It has 2 L's. Okay, and then from there, okay, well, the first tank can fill 6x balloons in 5 minutes. So 6x over 5. And then the second one can fill 24 balloons in 4x plus 1 minute. So 24 over 4x plus 1. Okay? If both tanks are used, okay, that means we're adding the two tanks, then it's going to equal